everyone, welcome once again to Netflix Roulette. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're doing a movie that I chose for Netflix Roulette. We're doing a movie starring Houdini called The Man from Beyond, which came out in 1922. Of course, it's a silent film. And this movie is, in fact, the fourth of the 5 movies Houdini made. He actually did quite a bit, surprisingly. And I was really surprised when we found this on Netflix. I was like, oh, Houdini made a movie? No, he made 5.
Yeah, I saw that on Wiki.
What was really strange about this one is that he wrote it and produced it.
I had a question about that when we got to the end of the movie.
We'll talk about it. This was the first movie that Houdini produced by himself. He produced, or not by himself, but he produced 2, and he kind of got his own production company after some fiascos he had prior to this in his film career. I kind of wish that we had been able to watch his 5th film instead, Haldane of the Secret Service, because apparently that movie, not that I've seen it, but I looked some things up, that movie is him like escaping from things over and over again throughout the whole movie.
Oh, that's cool.
There's people after him, and he keeps getting put in chains and things, and it's just like escape act after escape act. This was sort of star vehicle-y for Houdini, if you can call something that in 1922, in the sense that he does do one escape trick, but we'll talk about it because it's not all that interesting, unfortunately. And because he wrote it, there's some kind of like sort of fun things in that he plays a character that also has 2 H's, first name and his last name both start with an H, and
he's Harry, isn't he?
No, he's not Harry. He's
I thought he was Harry Hillway.
No, Hillary is his last name.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I thought it was Harry Hillary.
No, it's I'm sorry, I'm looking it up again because I just don't have it sitting in front of me. I forget. It's I watched this yesterday.
Howard, it's Howard. Sorry.
Howard, yeah. Anyway, so this film starts. Let me just give a very brief synopsis. This movie starts in what I thought was a really cool place, and I was pretty into this for the first 15 minutes, and then for me, it all went downhill after that. Basically, Houdini plays a character who is trapped in ice for 100 years, and he gets excavated by this scientific expedition. There's these 2 guys that get kind of lost out in the Arctic, but they find him in the middle of this old shipwreck, and he's in ice, and they excavate him, and he is preserved, or at least we think he's preserved. It turns out it's something else far more convoluted than that. And they pull him out, and he's alive, and then they take him back to where they live, and he finds a woman that looks exactly like his wife, who died in the shipwreck 100 years prior, and who has the exact same name as his wife, Felice. So it turns out that both of these people are reincarnated, and they're reincarnated as themselves?
Yeah.
Which is really strange. So we'll talk about all of that. Where I'd like to begin, though, is that the production values at the beginning are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It looks fantastic when they're in the Arctic, and obviously they had to have shot that on location, but I was wondering, when they got to the shipwreck stuff, if they built that, or how exactly they did it, because that all looks like real snow and ice, and there's this giant cave-in on the side of a wall. It looks really, really good. And there's this great attention to detail, there's all these cool props and stuff, and I kept finding myself thinking, okay, if this was more cleared up, because the film is really grainy, it's not holding up very well, and we don't have a great copy of it now. And in fact, I was looking up some stuff. There are 2 different houses that have released DVDs of this, and one of them looks clearer than the one we saw, but the one we saw apparently has a way better soundtrack. So that's good. I'm glad we got
debatable.
that. Well, better than the one that I read about, which was all done electronically.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I'm just glad that we at least got a live pianist with this one. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just kept wondering, okay, if this film was like cleared up some, I wonder if it would look faker than it did if it's actually a built set.
Well, you know what? I have you ever been to SeaWorld?
No.
Okay. Well, if you go to SeaWorld, they have this like Arctic thing. and you walk through it, and it's partially like a zoo thing, or like you can see polar bears, whatever. But they have this section that looks like I guess a cabin that like explorers in the Arctic would stay in, and they've got like these radios, and like it's in all this kind of mock stuff. And I was surprised because it looks a lot like that. I was like, wow, and like that stuff's made now. Like it looked pretty good for what it was. And I'm assuming it was all manufactured. I'm assuming it wasn't like on location. This is where Arctic explorers really stay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure they didn't like come upon a shipwreck and be like, "We should film this."
No. Um,
But yeah, so this movie is paced kind of wonky, and I'm not just saying that as somebody with like no historical perspective, because I've actually seen quite a few silent films, and I took a whole class on silent movies, and even for the day, the pacing is off, because there are a couple of like big action sequences, and the rest of it kind of sits there, and part of the problem is that it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
get
It's really convoluted and strange, and as far as I can tell, and from some of the research I did, this seems to be the general consensus of people that know this film, and also know things about Houdini, that this seemed to be Houdini trying to uh show his like religious beliefs.
I got
And
that at the end, and I wondered if Houdini wrote it, because at the
yeah,
end they literally just stop and go, "This belief is just as respectable as any other beliefs."
yeah, it's really preachy, but not just that, but it also doesn't, like I said, make a lot of sense as far as the narrative goes. It's not so much about, well, it's not at all about making these characters seem like real people. And I mean, like, not everything has to do that. So you get things like Metropolis that I think is a wonderful film that is entirely allegorical, but this isn't really allegorical. It's kind of just doing the thing that it's doing. Like it acts like it's in the real world, but then I don't know how these people got reincarnated as themselves again. It was
Okay,
really strange. Like if you're gonna do a guy who gets excavated out of ice after 100 years, how does his soul just come back into him?
yeah, I have two questions.
Right.
The first one is that reincarnation? Because he's
No.
still the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same body. I don't understand. No, that's not
Is
reincarnation
Captain
as
America
far as I understand.
reincarnated?
Well, that's the thing though, is that the distinction I'm making is that this guy wasn't preserved by the ice. Only his body was. We actually see his soul fill his body after he gets excavated.
Yeah, it's
So that body was dead the whole time, I guess.
okay. So my second question is, did they have books and pictures in 1922 of 1822?
Why do you ask that?
Because he comes out looking like a caveman? And I was like, did they not know what 100 years ago was? Because that's not how they dressed in the 1800s. He's
Well,
dressed like a caveman.
yeah, and the other thing that really took me out is that it's strange that he lives in this world of 100 years later for a good long time before he realizes that he's in a different time.
Yeah,
Like, the difference between 1822 and 1922 is still a lot. It's not like the difference between 1922 and 2012,
right.
but it's still, I mean, he should be surprised by electricity
And cars.
and cars, all the things that we see, but it's not until well into the, I mean, what was it, 15, 20 minutes before the movie was over that he finally looked at a newspaper?
Yeah. Well,
I
okay.
mean, like, he should be questioning that. So I don't know. There is no attempt at making making this even remotely realistic, or to have its own internal logic. More importantly,
I I'm gonna come straight out. I didn't like this movie. I didn't like this movie
yeah,
at all.
yeah, I really didn't care for it either. But what was really sad about it is I was digging it for 15 minutes.
I wasn't. And here's the thing that I'm really worried is gonna come off super uncultured and stuff. I don't think I like this because it's a silent film. Um, I mean, plot stuff aside, I've only seen one silent film before this, and that was Nosferatu, and that was with other people where we were kind of having fun watching a movie. I I sat here and I was really bored, and I'm like, I feel awful for being bored during a silent film. I feel like I should be better than this.
Well, you just have to get kind of accustomed to doing it, because to be fair, I mean these kinds of movies are so very different from what we make now, of course. That yeah, you're not used to this.
Well,
And that,
and I was trying.
and that's why I feel justified going straight to plot stuff and everything, because I'm comparing this to other silent movies I've seen, and I'm telling you, it's not as good as a lot of silent films I've seen.
Okay, the thing was because I was trying to think. I was trying to. I'm like I like lots of movies where there's lots of silence. Like I like movies like Drive and uh what's that one the No Country for Old Men, like movies that have long periods of like no talking. And I think what really bothered me in that first 15 minutes, that obviously you've seen a lot of silent films, so it probably wouldn't bother you. I was like, there's no sound. I never thought about it. There's no sound. Like it's not just that they're not talking. Like when the axe hits the ice, there's no sound. And I that for some reason that really like distanced me from what was going on. I felt like I was watching an AMV. Um, and like I really had this weird experience where I'm like, I feel really ashamed that like I'm not liking this because it's a silent film. And then as it went on, I was like, not only is this a silent film, but I don't understand anything. And I don't if what this should have been, I feel like story-wise, this should have been a guy that wakes up 100 years later, meets a woman that looks like his fiance, and then convinces her. What's all of this stuff about her father missing?
Yeah,
And
I couldn't honestly, I couldn't even begin to not only get into any of that, but like make any sense of it.
I couldn't understand. Did they find the father? What?
They find him at the end. He's been kidnapped by the evil doctor guy
Oh, okay.
this whole time. But I never really understood how that played into like the
That
ideas of the
felt
movie.
like a different story altogether.
Yeah, it was. It seemed like it was uh, just wasting a lot of time because it didn't have anywhere to go with its romantic premise until the end. I mean, it tries to do some interesting bookending stuff with the ending. I mean, I'll give you the waterfall thing is kind of interesting if I were to care more about this couple, because you've got these kind of um, connecting events of he got frozen in ice after he was on the water and his ship crashed and his wife died, and this is like a second chance kind of thing where they're on the water again, and he's trying to save her, and this kind of like we can beat nature kind of thing, like we died before but like the human soul transcends nature. That kind of broadly seemed to be the whole idea of the thing.
But I feel like that should have been the film. I mean, the entire film should have been
Should
on
have, yeah.
water. But like, I feel like the whole movie should have been him trying to convince her, and then getting to this point at the end where he saves her and she kind of maybe remembers or has a connection. Like, I feel like everything in between that is just pointless.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And
And it also is really, really strange about the order of its events and how they, or rather, when they present them, because he gets thrown into an insane asylum,
right.
and he gets wrapped up in sheets, and then later on he's just escaped. And for whatever reason, to go find Felice. For whatever reason, they don't actually show you the escape itself until 10 minutes after that. And by that point, who cares?
Yeah, and it was kind of confusing to me. Like I was kind of like, wait, he's not in the sane asylum, but now he is. And like I had trouble following bits of this because it was like that. Um okay, you know the ending where the big moral lesson at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, which by the way, I like that like most of this movie was like little bits of text, and then when you get to the end, it's like the letters got smaller because he had so much to say there. Um,
Yeah, I was like, why don't you just deliver that in like two or three intertitles? I don't get that.
but there was
Because I've seen a lot of silent films that will do that. If they have a large block of text like that, they'll give you two or three in a row.
there was this line that he says, the guy that's talking about it says, no, a rational man like me doesn't buy into such a thing. I was like, that's really weird to put in your ending. This is the moral of the story statement.
Yeah, it was almost like I'm writing you this letter about how I feel about like religion and philosophy, but I'm gonna do it in the guise of kind of this narrative that's ultimately not gonna really uh, make any sense.
I wonder if this would have been more interesting if he'd written a book.
Well, I don't know, maybe
I,
so.
sorry, I don't mean The Man from Beyond. I mean if he'd just written a book about his philosophies.
Right, right, yeah.
Um, I don't know. I really didn't care for this.
It's unfortunate, you know. I was, and like I said, I think probably a couple of his other movies are a lot better than this, and I kind of wish that this wasn't the one that they had on Netflix. But I did want to quickly mention a couple other things I noticed. First of all, as far as silent movie acting goes, because I am used to silent films, and the format of it doesn't like bug me like it does you, or throw me off. I'm just used to watching movies like this. Um, Houdini has some decent presence. Like he's a good actor for this kind of acting. And it makes a lot of sense because
he's a
because he was a
stage
stage performer.
magician.
So yeah, so like it never occurred to me, but of course the man would know how to act. He's already doing that on stage, and uh, one of the things that Houdini was really known for was being able to sell himself. There has been throughout history other magicians that were somewhat better at some of the things that he was doing than he was, but what they didn't have that he did was this ability to sell himself. And making films was one of the ways that he did that. He was really smart at jumping onto these kind of pioneering sorts of technologies and things, and capitalizing on them. And so nobody at this point knew if film was going to stick and be a thing for a good long time. But Houdini decided to use it because it was popular right then. And so that anyway, that's why he made so many movies in a row like he did.
What you're saying is that Houdini was the first person to promote synergy.
Or at least he was one of them. Yeah. But yeah, because the first thing I thought when we started watching this was like, okay, so somebody gets Houdini to play a Houdini-esque character, and it's sort of like these like sports star vehicles. Where like you take Shaq and you put him in a movie, but he's not really an actor. But that wasn't really the way it was at all. Because I mean, Houdini was doing some of the things that he was known for, but he also could act.
I was
So that's
expecting more escape artistry.
So was I, and I was really, and it was sad that we didn't get it. Really, all we get is one escape. Like I said, it's the one where he gets out of the insane asylum, and that's not even all that impressive looking.
No, it's really not.
It's that cheats, and I'm like, okay. And then we see him scale a building, which was cool.
Speaking of acting, there's a moment really early on when there's the two guys out in the ice, and one of them kind of like falls over, and the other one has this look of complete evil in his eyes. I really dug that. There was something about that moment. I was like, that's really good. But then he wasn't bad, really, so I was kind of confused.
Yeah, and that's something about silent film acting is that because there's not any sound, and also because a lot of these actors naturally would have come from the stage, there's a lot of very over the top, flamboyant kinds of stuff like that, which can sometimes be really effective depending on the kind of movie. Even now going back and looking at it, even though we're not used to that sort of thing. Um, I was really confused by the choices in the colors of tint that are in this.
Yeah, me
And
too.
this is something that you get a lot in silent films where we think of silent movies as black and white, but they're not always black and white because they have the ability to do colors of tint. There are some black and or there are some silent films that even are colored over where they are in color, maybe not full color, but like a few different colors but sometimes almost full color, where somebody will go in and actually meticulously color on each cell and bring color to it. Well, we get tint in this, and immediately my mind, when I see some kind of a pattern, is trying to figure out what the representation is of the colors. And so you start getting flashbacks in purple. So I'm like, okay, purple is denoting flashbacks in this movie. And then sometimes the flashbacks are in blue. I was like, okay, so it's in blue. Like I could tell that it took place in the past. Like anytime, at first it was like all the stuff on the water in the past with the shipwreck was in purple. Like, okay, and then something that's in blue, and I'm like, all right, it's in blue now. And then Felice would have these weird dreams. I'm assuming they were all supposed to be dreams, where she's like running across a field and some different things, and that's all in green. It's like, okay, so the dreams are in green and the flashbacks are in purple and sometimes blue. Oh, all right. I don't really know what the significance is of the difference between the purple and the blue, and if it's supposed to mean anything symbolically or metaphorically. But okay. And then
Wait,
there's
hold
a
on. Can I just? I don't know anything about film deterioration. Is it possible that it was originally one color and it's deteriorated to the point where it looks like it's
no.
two?
No,
Okay.
and the reason I know that's not what happened. I imagine that could maybe happen, although I'm not sure why on the same reel it would be inconsistent like that to the degree where it's clearly purple and clearly blue. But you also I also know that there is another version that is not tinted at all.
Oh, okay.
And I'm assuming that they're both from the same film. Now I don't know if somebody maybe went back and retinted this for some reason, but the choices are weird, so I don't know how that was. So I mean, I guess what I'm critiquing right now is the version I saw, and I don't really know who's responsible for it or if it's a later thing. So this might all be completely superfluous because it might be because I don't know what the original intent of the piece was. But I do want to mention this because it was weird. Somebody made a mistake, I think, in the last 20 minutes because there's another place where there's a flashback that's in the brown hues that we've seen consistently as the present day through the whole thing. Again, this is not entirely in black and white. We also have brown hues,
Right.
the present day stuff. And then, so I'm like, okay, so now we have this is clearly supposed to be a flashback. It was going back to some of the water stuff. Like, okay, it's a flashback, but now it's in the brown hues. And then right after that, there is a present day scene that's colored blue. So anyway, I was like totally unsure of what the was going on with the choices of tint.
Yeah, I assumed that that was just like a film thing. I didn't even realize that they tinted films like that. So
Yeah, because again, sometimes there was some consistency, and I've seen this in other silent films where different colors will kind of denote different things and try to give you a different kind of atmosphere about different parts of the movie.
I
But
didn't even
anyway,
know that. I'm learning things every day.
yeah, I'd love to have you sit down and watch actually some good silent films.
I intend to at some point watch Metropolis. Um, that's on my to watch list.
Make sure you read up on Metropolis too when you read it.
Yeah,
Or I'm
well,
sorry,
and we actually talked about that a while back when you were discussing possibly picking a silent film at one point.
because I will say that especially now, I don't know that you can go back and watch Metropolis and completely pick up on everything that movie is doing without reading up a little bit on the project, which is unfortunate. You want the piece to totally stand on its own, but a lot of the themes obviously are clearly there, and some of them are very, very on the nose, very on the nose. But that's part of the charm of it. It's fun. So anyway, yeah. Um, I was disappointed with this one. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, me too.
But that's okay because I did enjoy getting to see Houdini act, and like I said, the first 15 minutes of this I thought was a decent setup uh,
I was bored. I kept checking it. I was like, I'm only 13 minutes in. Oh, this is gonna be bad.
yeah, and there is some historical perspective in the way these are paced because the pacing for there seemed pretty consistent with a lot of silent films I've seen, but then after that it just got dull. There's too much people standing around talking without intertitles.
Right.
Was part of a problem with this too, where I was like, well, it's just not really all that important right now that these people are talking because I don't know what they're saying. So there is an art to where you put intertitles and how often and what you use them for. More of the best silent films I've seen have been the ones that do a lot more of the storytelling visually and don't rely that much on intertitles. I think I've heard that the rule was kind of like for like an hour and a half movie, you try not to use more than like 25 or something.
Oh, really?
But I don't remember what exactly the number is. But I think there was kind of um, there was a number that certain directors would kind of try to stick to, if I'm remembering that right. But I'm rusty. It's been a long time since I've studied up on this stuff. But anyway, that's all I have to say about it.
That's all I got too.
Well, Eric, what are we doing next time?
Next time we are going to be doing a movie called Slither, um, which stars Nathan Fillion.
What?
Yeah,
I thought you picked something else.
I changed my mind.
Okay. I thought you were joking
No,
because
no,
I was
no, no, no,
ready for what you
no,
were gonna say. Okay,
no. I actually.
Fillion, huh? That's cool.
It stars Nathan Fillion, written and directed by a man named James Gunn. Do you know who James Gunn is?
I've heard of James Gunn.
He's
Yeah,
writing and directing Guardians of the Galaxy.
yeah, cool.
So yeah,
Okay, yes, that I had heard of him even before that, but I can't remember for what.
he did a movie called Super, which I was not a fan of.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay, cool.
But yeah, I was gonna pick a different film, but then I saw that I had this in my instant queue, and I was like, oh, I've been meaning to watch this. From what
Is this going to be the second zombie movie you've had us watch?
this is not a zombie movie.
Well, then why does it say there's townsfolk morphing into zombies
Oh, I don't know.
in the blurb I just read about this
I
movie?
was under the impression that this was more of an Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of thing.
Well, it says zombies, so that's why I asked
Oh,
you that.
okay. I've not seen it. I can't answer these questions. But from what I understand, this is a horror comedy, which is my favorite kind of horror. Um,
Well, it will be the second horror comedy you've had us
it
watch.
will be the second horror comedy that I've had us watch. Yes, it will. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. I've always meant to watch this because I like Nathan Fillion. And I just kept forgetting about it. And I have it in my instant queue, and I kept forgetting to watch it. So, oh, it also co-stars Elizabeth Banks. I don't know how you feel about her, but she,
The name is familiar.
she exists. She's fine. Um, but yeah, so that's what we will be watching next week. Maybe the week after next week, I'll pick the movie I originally intended. If we're not back for Arrow, I think we might actually be back.
Yeah, I think we'll be back for Arrow by then.
Let's.
In fact, I think this might be the last one will even have time to do
This
before
is
Arrow.
the last one.
Yeah, because Arrow starts the 9th.
Oh man, this is
Yeah.
this is oh, I'm gonna miss this.
So I will too. We'll be right back to Arrow. Now, if there's like a 3 or 4 week lull at some point with
We
Arrow,
should
we
go
might come
back
back
to
and do a
it. We
couple
can
more.
have something to fill those gaps. Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's no reason we couldn't, and we could always do another one of those crazy commentaries.
Yeah, which may be something that is actually like decipherable and
Yeah,
doesn't introduce new characters in every scene of the film.
yeah, and then we can say Smorgasbord and Smite again.
And Cappy.
And Cappy, man, we're gonna have to make sure that it's really late at night, and I've knocked a couple back again, because
And
that was what it took to get through that. But I gotta
preferably
tell
we
you,
watch a movie that doesn't make you sober like the last one.
I expected all of 3 people would have watched that,
I
and
do
people seem to
too.
really enjoy it. And people asked us to come back and do it again. And I think if nothing else, we should do it. We should do 1 or 2 more of those in between arrows.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because I had a blast doing that. That was fun. It would be a lot more fun if it was a movie that didn't sit there the whole time. Like, even if it's bad, at least
Yeah, I think we should still aim for a more bad movie, but not that bad.
Oh, I think so too. As a movie we've never seen before, because
Mm.
if it's too engrossing, we'll just be there. Well, I'm trying to figure out what's happening in this movie. Stop talking. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening to let Netflix Roulette.
Never. Oh man,
I'm
could you
Captain Logan.
imagine if we tried to watch Chinatown as a commentary?
Oh, that'd be terrible. We would the whole time we'd just be like, Eric, I think this movie is good. I think so too, Cap. And then we would literally it would be us posting a commentary of mostly silence, where we would just be like, okay, everybody be quiet so we can all watch this movie. And then every now and again I would go,
He
hey,
was
Eric.
her father?
Yeah. Like every now and again, I would kind of whisper. I'd be like, hey, Eric. Yeah, what, Cap? You think he's gonna make it over that fence? I don't think he's gonna make it over that fence.
Oh man,
I think
he
he's
can play a
totally
good
gonna
guy.
get
Why didn't
stabbed.
why didn't Jack
I
Nicholson
think
play more good guys?
he's gonna get stabbed before he gets over that fence.
That band-aid's been on his nose for a long time. Um,
So anyway, no, that has to happen with a bad movie if we've never seen it before. I think. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for listening to Netflix Roulette. I'm Captain Logan,
And I'm Eric.